To recap from the previous video, salt contains sodium and chloride, and it's the sodium in the salt that affects our kidney health. So you might be surprised to hear that some foods and drinks have naturally occurring sodium. It can be found in things like meat, milk, eggs, some vegetables and even drinking water, but this only accounts for about 10% of the sodium we eat. For most people, the majority of sodium comes from added salt. 75% is from the salt that is hidden in convenience, processed or takeaway foods, and 15% comes from salt we add at the table or in our cooking. It's also worth mentioning that some effervescent dissolvable painkillers and vitamins also contain high levels of sodium, so you might want to check with your doctor or pharmacist if there's an alternative you can take. As 75% of our salt is coming from convenience, processed or takeaway foods, it's important you have a good understanding of what foods that includes. A convenience food is a food that's been pre-prepared and is ready to eat, and a takeaway food is usually ordered and made in a restaurant and taken away and eaten at home, so you're not involved in the cooking of either of these. A processed food is slightly broader than this, so it's any food that's been altered in some way. It can be as basic as freezing, putting in a can, drying or baking, so these foods are all considered to be processed. So even if you cook regularly, it's likely you will still have some processed foods in your diet, and not all processed foods contain salt, so you do not have to stop eating them altogether. In one of the later videos, we'll show you how to read the labels to identify which ones are high in salt, so you can choose lower salt alternatives. To reduce the salt in your diet, read the labels of processed foods and choose lower salt options. Cook more from scratch if you're able to. Reduce the salt you're adding to cooking and at the table, and reduce the amount of takeaway food you're eating. We're going to look at all of these suggestions in more detail in the next few videos. Try not to make all of these changes in one go. Drastic changes are really hard to stick to, and it's important you give yourself time to adjust. Remember, we do need some salt, so don't try to cut it out altogether. Sodium is present in lots of natural foods and even drinking water. The majority of sodium comes from added salt in convenience, processed or takeaway foods. Reduce your salt by cooking from scratch, checking the labels of convenience and processed foods, reducing takeaway foods, and reducing salt in your cooking or at the table.